Right, it's Mark Shipley, based at St.Ann's, and started in the job 26th of July, 1973. Nearly 20 years now.
So whereabouts do you live?
Me, I live in East Yorkshire, near Bridlington, near Flamborough Head.
What did you do before you became a lighthouse keeper?
Yeah, I was a crane driver on building sites, believe it or not, and before that I used to work on a trout farm on a fishing stream, yeah.
Is that where you get your love of fishing?
No, I've always been mad keen on fishing.
What made you join the lighthouse service then?
It's a bit of a long story, but to cut it short, being a crane driver, I tried to get a job on North Sea oil rigs, and there was none available at the time, and I sort of somehow drifted into Trinity House, like most of us, I think. And funny thing was, I only joined up. I thought I'll give it 18 months to see how it goes, and here I am 20 years on, still ploughing along.
So you do like it then?
Oh yeah, I mean, anything's better than working for a living, isn't it?
What lighthouses have you been on?
Well, I remember I started at Dungeness, and then I went to Beachy Head and Alderney, and then back from there, can't remember where I went then. Oh, then I went back to Beachy Head, and then Caskets, Hanwha. Spent quite a long time on the Hanwha, five years, which is too long a time on a place like that. And then from there, I went to the pool. Spent a couple of years chasing around the country, like crazy thing, and I came back, and where did I go? Oh, then I went to Longstone. That was that's probably the best place I've been. A great place was Longstone. It was about 4 years there. A marvellous place. The little island, thousands of seals, plenty of fishing. And it was unfortunate there was dozens and dozens of lobsters to eat.
Life on a lighthouse out to sea. Can you explain what that was like?
Well, I spent, nearly 5 years at the Hanwha, which is... Actually, it wasn't too bad, a rock, because low tide you could get out, and it used to dry out to about the size of 2 football pitches, so you get out and have a walk, but inside it's very cramped, and the equipment on the Hanwha left something to be desired. It's getting pretty ancient, and it was interesting, but in winter it can get pretty grim in winter for a month at a time, but actually in summertime down the Hanwha was quite pleasant, but the other rocks I've been on were fairly good. And Caskets was a pleasure as well, because there was plenty of room there to move about.
You joined the job when the stations still had IOBs, the oil-fired burners, didn't you?
Yeah, the first station, after Dungeness, Beach Head was an IOB, and Alderney was an IOB, and then back to Beach Head, and I was at Beach Head when they converted the station. Because at Beach Head, when I went to Beach Head, there was no electricity at all. It was still a Rayburn cooker, tilly lamps, and all paraffin and clockwork. There was no, it's like Black Hole of Calcutta on a night.
So what year would that be?
That would be 1974.
So what were the watches like on Beachy?
Well, you had to sit in the kitchen all the time, because there was no power anywhere, so there were 2 tilly lamps in the kitchen and a Rayburn. So the 3 keepers stuck in the kitchen. You used to get... it was very what called snug, if not red hot. But anywhere else in the tower, you couldn't go anywhere else, because it was a torch job, crawling around in the dark, yeah. And every hour we had to go up and wind up.
So I take it in those days it was bucket and chuck it for toilet facilities?
Oh no, they actually had a toilet there, and it even worked, which was a bit of a luxury for that tower rock, yeah. But the beauty about Beach Head was, on the low tides, you could at least get outside and maybe once a fortnight, have a walk into Eastbourne, as long as you were quick. It was a good brisk hour's walk. Grab the mail, a bit of groceries, and march back before the tide cut you off again.
Any sort of rough weather on the tower rocks you've been on?
Yeah, I've been on the Hanwha once when it was an exceptionally big storm. But the beauty about Hanwha was there was a reef out to the southwest, and because the big seas used to hit the reef, and it used to take most of the sting out of it. There was a tremendous lot of spray, but there wasn't actually, like the Eddystone or the other ones, there wasn't the swell. It was, it was mainly spray. But you get some fair seas down the Channel Islands.
So you've been on the Channel Islands a lot then?
Yeah, I spent most of my time on the Channel Islands, which was quite an interesting place. It's quite a boozy place as well. There were some spectacular nights before reliefs. There's some fair old stories there.
So have you done lots of boat reliefs?
No, I didn't do too many. Not the proper tower up boat reliefs. There's odd ones on the Hanwha. But most of them were helicopters. They did quite well. Longstone, we had some pretty hairy boat reliefs, because the boatman was, as I say, was mad was an understatement. He would boldly go when nobody else would go, and to try to prove a point. He went out. It took me out one day. It was so rough, even the lifeboat and the Sea King wouldn't work. But he still went out and managed it. I remember we used to work with one PK called Bill Fagg. He was a great guy. He was an amazing fella for drinking, and I also remember once we got on a helicopter before they clamped down on it. He got on the helicopter rather the worse for wear, I remember, and tried to get out of the helicopter while it was still at 500 feet, and that was that was some day. Another day was at Guernsey, I also remember, and we all got ready to fly the helicopter. There was no sign of Bill. Next thing we saw, he was walking down the central runway, drunk at Guernsey Airport, with this Viscount trying to take off for Heathrow. Everybody waving and screaming. He's walking down the centre of the runway. This Viscount trying to following him along, trying to take off. He's just waving his arms in the air, trying to clear off, or something like that. Yeah, there's some peculiar fellas. We had one old guy called Harry Whitehouse. He was a character. He was on Bardsey with me, and Caskets. He was some guy. He used to suffer from ulcers, and he used to just get himself about right, and then promptly go and drink about 3 cans of ice cold lager, and have Piccadilly sandwiches and wonder why he collapsed. He
was the one they made a film about on Bardsey, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite an interesting film. I was actually on that film. If you're quick, in about 3 seconds, you'll actually see me. Yeah, they were there. A film crew was about a week there playing around. I saw that film. It was a bit arty, crafty to my taste, but it did come over not too bad. Trouble is, most things on Lighthouses, when they film them, they don't come out right. They don't seem to be very natural, but I wonder if the Pete Halil one looks better.
Where did you train?
I went to Blackwall, and the old Blackwall workshops. Quite interesting was that, because I did the full 3-week course, and I got sent away to a lighthouse the last day before the last day. So when I finished there, I had to come back and do the whole 3 weeks again. So I got trained twice. We didn't no improvement, but yeah, they were instructing the use of IOBs and Morse code and things like that were totally irrelevant. You never use.
Can you explain what an IOB is and how you worked it?
Well, basically, an IOB all it is a giant tilly lamp, and it's just you had to pump them up by hand, and it just basically that's all it is. It's a big tilly lamp. It's a run on clockwork. You used to wind them up every hour. And somewhere like Alderney was a bad one. It was 250 turns of the handle every hour. It was hard work. You're out of breath, but it just keep you fit. As long as they were kept clean. And we used to soak them in buckets of potash for days on end, and then clean them off, then wash them all off with hot water, then dry them, and then you have to put them and assemble them all together. It's just like a tilly lamp housing. And use the old dreaded black lead, the old Zebrite, to polish and make them nice and shiny, and then clip them all together. But yeah, IOBs they were good lights, but they worked all right. But they had to be scrupulously clean with them, and couldn't play around with them at all. And mantles used to fall off in the middle of the night. But they were a good piece of equipment.
Was that in the days of duty cook and things like that?
Yeah, I had some interesting cooks in this job, yeah. Because on Tower Rocks at that time, we used to, the cook used to supply the vegetables, and the men used to supply the meat. And so if you were cook of the day, if you got 3 different types of meat, it could be a bit awkward, but most keepers were pretty basic. I've been with some good cooks, and I've been with some dreadful ones. No names mentioned. There's one old guy, I think he lives in Southampton now, Jim Gold. He'd been in the job for 40 odd years, before he retired, and he was a fabulous cook. And Sundays used to be his piece de resistance. It used to be a huge spotted dick, covered all over in Nestle's condensed milk. A real nightmare was that one.
That was 2 months at a time on a tower, wasn't it?
Yeah, when I joined, I only did 2 months turn-offs, then it was changed around, so I joined just at about the right time when it went. I joined at the time when it went from 2 months on, month off to 1 month on, 1 month off. I think 2 months out on some of these places was, well, looking at some of the old guys, I think they were a bit stir-crazy at the finish, yeah.
What was it like to have to grub up for that amount of time then?
Well, it wasn't too bad. Vegetables were the main thing. You got to change over at the middle of the month, but diet could get a bit bland and monotonous, especially somewhere like Beachhead. There was no power. So all I had was two tiny paraffin fridges, so there was no freezer facilities. So after about a fortnight, all the veggie got a bit withered up. So you were sort of basically the diet of the dreaded Dutch white cabbages and swede and spud. Whereas it was nice, but yeah, it could get a bit monotonous, your diet. I think nowadays everybody's got freezers and microwaves, and people are a bit more ambitious with their cooking, or look at some of the concoctions you see, because now when we all cook for ourselves now, some concoctions look a bit ambitious, but I don't know what they are.
So how did you manage to preserve your meat and stuff like that?
Well, they had paraffin fridges, and it was to 10 up high, and they would freeze, but you were pretty restricted. I know one guy used to go on the Smalls, and he had the same tea every night for 56 days. He used to have every night, 5 o'clock, without fail, it was the same tea for 56 nights. He used to take off 56 tins of Heinz vegetable soup and have 2 slices of brown bread and butter and a tin of Heinz vegetable soup, 5 o'clock every night for 56 nights. Oh dear.
Now you've come full circle and you're actually a boss, a PK. So what's it like to be in charge?
Well, it's just exactly the same as before, except I get lumbered with all the paperwork. So else seems to be pretty good at inventing this stuff, and I thought computers were supposed to take the paperwork away, and I think, as far as I'm concerned, they seem to create more. But the one thing about St.Ann's here, it's interesting because there's something happening nearly every day. Actually, sometimes too much happens. It gets a little bit hectic here. It's a totally different. Actually, it's a completely different job from the job I joined. I don't know if it's any better, but it's different anyway. We're a lot busier.